Verse 37 of Surat Tawbah is the one most generally used as evidence that intercalation was prohibited. It uses the word Nasi, a word whose meaning is controversial. The tafasir contain different descriptions of what Nasi means. However, there is a general agreement among modern establishment scholars that the criticism of Nasi is a criticism of intercalating a month in the calendar. In translations of the Quran into English, the word month is interpolated into verse 37, even though the word for month is absent from the verse. M.H. Shakir translates the beginning of that verse as the postponing of the sacred month. And he puts of the sacred month in parentheses. M.H. Khan translates the postponing of a sacred month. Also, of a sacred month is put in parentheses. Yusuf Ali translates the transposing of a prohibited month, also of a prohibited month in parentheses. And Muhammad Asad puts the intercalation of months. Later in the verse, when it says that they may agree in the number of what God has made sacred, M.H. Shakir adds that they may agree in the number of months in parentheses. So they're adding the word month into the verse, which is not in the verse. The verse itself reads as follows. The Nasi is only an addition to unbelief, wherewith those who disbelieve are led astray, violating it one year and keeping it sacred another, that they may agree in the number of what Allah has made sacred, but violate what Allah made sacred. The evil of their doings is made fair seeming to them, and Allah does not guide the unbelieving people. The question is, what does the word Nasi mean? This word that the translators insist implies the notion of a month. What is this thing that is criticized in the verse as an addition to disbelief? The Sira of Ibn Ishaq, the most widely read biography of the Prophet Muhammad, ﷺ, composed in the 8th century of the Common Era and edited in the 9th century by Ibn Hisham, relates that there was a group of members of the tribe of Banu Kinana who were legal opinion makers, jurists, and religious authorities among the pagan Arabs. Among this group were officials who were called the Nasa'a, singular, Nasi with an alif, and they were responsible for doing something called Nasi. The Nasa'a are those who used, this is a quote from the Sira, the Nasa'a are those who used to Nasi the months for the Arabs in the time of ignorance. They would make one of the holy months profane and make one of the profane months holy in its place, and they would defer that month. It was about this that Allah Most High sent down, the Nasi is nothing but an addition to disbelief, by which those who disbelieve are misled. They permit or desecrate it 1 year and ban or consecrate it another year, in order to agree on the number of what God made sacred. The first to Nasi the months for the Arabs, so then they permitted, desecrated what he permitted, desecrated, and banned, consecrated what he banned, consecrated, was al-Qadr, and he was Hudhaifa ibn Abd ibn Fukaim ibn Adi ibn Amir ibn Tharaba ibn al-Harith ibn Malik ibn Kinana ibn Khuzaimah. And then he was followed in this position by his son, Abad ibn Hudhaifa. Then Abad was followed by Qara ibn Abad, and Qara was followed by Umayyah ibn Qara. Then Umayyah was followed by Auf ibn Umayyah. Then Auf was followed by Abu Thumama Junada bin Auf, and he was the last of them, for he was overtaken by Islam. When the Arabs had finished their pilgrimage, they used to gather around him, and he would consecrate the 4 sacred months, Rajab, Dhul-Qa'dah, Dhul-Hijjah, and Muharram. If he wanted to desecrate any of them, he would desecrate al-Muharram, then they would desecrate it. And he would consecrate Safar in its place, then they would consecrate it, so as to agree in the number of the 4 sacred months. So if they wanted to go out freely, he stood up among them and said, Allahumma, I have desecrated one of the Safars for them, the first Safar, and I have nasi'd the other until the next year. Apparently the month Muharram used to be called the first Safar, Safar al-Awwal. What this is describing is that one of the Nasa'a would stand up and say that he was going to make Muharram not to be a holy month for 1 year, and that the month was going to be called Safar al-Awwal again. Instead, he was going to take the holiness of Muharram and transfer it to the second Safar. There is another description of the same process in Muhammad ibn Habib's Kitab al-Muhabba, written in the 9th century. This account is similar to the story in Ibn Ishaq, but there are some more details added. The Nasa'a of the months were from Kinana. This is the story told in Ibn Habib. The Nasa'a of the months were from Kinana, and they were the Kalamasa, and the singular was Kalamas. And they were the Arabs' jurists and legal opinion issuers in their religion. And sometimes the Arabs were living by their swords and their spears, and the consistent practice of the 3 holy months was inconvenient for them. So the Kalamas, one of those Kalamasa, used to stand on the black stone during the days of Tashriq and make legal pronouncements to them. And no one asked about anything other than that. So one of their men stood at the door of the Kaaba, and another man stood on the stone, and both of them said, I am the one who is not blamed, and who is not sinful, and of whom not one of his decisions is resisted. One of the Nasi officials is standing at the door of the Kaaba, the other is standing on the black stone. They declare that they are sinless and infallible, and that they have such authority that no one can resist their decisions. So then the story goes on. Then if a people comes to him who intend to raid during Muharram, they ask him that he postpone, and there the word used is yu'akhir, Muharram. So he complies with them and declares that this year there is a Safar al-Awwal, and he says this in the reckoning to which the year had not come round. And they were not observing the crescent moons, and they did not know what that was. So they proceeded according to that, and they postponed Muharram and made Safar go ahead. So they profaned Muharram 1 year and consecrated it another year. What these texts are describing is moving the holiness of Muharram to Safar. It's not intercalating. In fact, Ibn Habib implies that they were doing this Nasi thing distinct from and alongside a regular intercalation practice. He says that, so Ibn Habib says that the Nasa'a from Banu Kanana says what he says in the reckoning to which the year had not come round. In any case, what these accounts describe has nothing to do with adding a month to keep the lunar and solar cycles lined up. It is only shifting the sacred character of one month to a non-sacred month and transferring the profane nature of the latter to the former. Moreover, it is done for the sole purpose of letting people escape the imposition of peace that comes with a sacred month. Such an objection is never associated with intercalation to keep the lunar and solar cycles in line. So if Nasi is what is described in the Sira and in Kitab al-Muhabbar, it is not intercalation.